there is a new board post about crit item explorations part 2 that dropped while I was making the other video. So usually I won't try and do like the double uploads and clutter people's like, you know, feed and stuff with multiple videos, etc, etc. I know, but this is kind of important with the whole kind of what we've been talking about for the past month. There is now crit items, basically part 2 on the boards. I'm going to go over that post, kind of the goals that they want to do in this post and stuff like that. Usual disclaimer, these aren't shipped to live like right now. They still want feedback on even these changes. They just kind of have an idea of the direction they finally maybe want to go with crit items. So let's keep that in mind and let's just jump right into it. Hi everyone, I'm back again to talk about crit items, share what we have so far and hear your feedback. After testing for a few weeks and considering feedback both internally and from the community, here's where we've landed. The exact details are still in flux. We need to change a few more things, but I'd love to see what you all think. What are you excited for and what's missing? Usual disclaimer, like I mentioned earlier, not all of these things are guaranteed to ship and are subject to change. Project goals. Crit users have an item path they are excited about. Crit users have defensive options that fit into their core builds. Crit users become more satisfying at all levels of play. Let me know what you think either in thread or on Twitter at Riot Froxion. I'm pretty sure that's wrong. I'll be reading feedback over the next few days. So first and foremost, Phantom Dancer, defensive option for the first 2 items. And back in the day, especially like in season 5, for those that remember before like the crit item changes back then, Phantom Dancer kind of was one of the core builds for like everybody. It was like Infinity Edge, Old Phantom Dancer, Last Whisper. So that's what they kind of also mean by like, you know, in the first 2 items, this used to kind of be an item, the second item people used to build. And so now, instead of building out of like Hex Drinker and all that stuff, it'll still build out of a Zeal item, the Brawlers Glove, and the Dagger, cost 2800 gold, have 30% attack speed, 25% crit strike, and 7% move speed. However, despite not having Hex Drinker in it, it would still be upon taking damage that would reduce your health below 30%, grant a shield that absorbs 280 damage for 5 seconds, 90-second cooldown. So basically think Hex Drinker, how it'll save you from magic damage, but now it's just going to save you from all damage, just period, magic, 80, whatever, once you drop below a certain bit of life. And I'll talk about maybe more of my own opinions of stuff later. One of the things to note about that, why that might be better for some people, because I didn't really like maybe the Hex Drinker building into it, even though it's still built, it was Hex Drinker and a Zeal item, so you'd still get crit and stuff, is the whole concept of if you're a Jinx, for example, you kind of want to build Runon's Hurricane as your second item. So if you're forcing the Jinx to build this item, while she'll still be useful, not like a complete dead weight, it still won't be necessarily the item that she wants to build. So that might be the kind of, I want to say, like counterplay or balance there, right? Like, they're still going to be useful, but you're also forcing them to have to build a different way than the way they want to build, and you're still rewarded then maybe if you beat up on her in lane and force her to have to kind of build this instead of what she wants to build, right? Maybe also Jinx is just one of the few hyper carries who just has more counterplay than other hyper carries, so that's a bad example, and that's why we haven't seen her in pro play in quite a bit, at least successfully. So what do I know? Nothing. Let's continue on. 25% crit items with the Shard buff. So pretty much like, you know, Rapid Fire Cannon, 2800 gold, Zeal item, the Shard, 30% attack speed, 25% critical strike, 7% move speed, the passive that moving through and attacking will make an energized attack, the energized attack will come out, and with Rapid Fire Cannon, you'll energize 25% faster. Static Shiv basically is pretty much the same as well with the energized attacks. Runon's Hurricane, also 2800 gold, which I kind of mentioned earlier a little bit, 40% attack speed, 25% critical strike, and 7% movement speed. That is kind of one thing to note. This has 35% attack speed, this one has 30, this one has 30% attack speed as well. So one of the things that is kind of changing actually, that I almost skimmed over by accident, is Runon's Hurricane is going to actually have more attack speed than it used to have. Right now, I believe Runon's Hurricane, Rapid Fire Cannon, Static Shiv were all around 30 to 35, and the actual more attack speed was on Phantom Dancer on live at 45%. So even though it was probably maybe the least built Zeal item second, it had the most attack speed if you were gonna go that route. Let's get into a little bit of the things that are a little bit more spicy. Essence Reaver is pretty much kind of being reverted back to the old Essence Reaver, to the point they are bringing back the Cloak of Agility for 800 gold as a matter of fact. It'll have 60 attack damage, 25% critical strike chance, 20% cooldown reduction, and basic attacks refund 1.5% of your missing mana. So for those of you, the Zayas, the Sivers, all of the Lucians, and all of y'all that really wanted the old Essence Reaver back, they've pretty much heard you and said, you know what, we're bringing the old Essence Reaver back, let's do it. That being said, when it comes to the Spear of Shojin, I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, it will cost 3,000 gold, it'll give you 70 attack damage, 20% cooldown reduction, and after you cast your ultimate, your next basic attack within 10 seconds grants you placeholder name, they don't have a name yet, for 6 seconds, 30-second cooldown. And the placeholder name ability will gain 50% attack speed, and basic attacks refund 20% of your remaining non-ultimate cooldowns. So the thing about this is, Spear of Shojin, they're kind of converting into what's live Essence Reaver, and then bringing back old Essence Reaver for like AD carries and the marksmen and people that want to use that one. And the logic here is that there are currently on live people that kind of like the current Essence Reaver, Renekton, for example, being one of them, in other lanes that are like not marksmen. So they kind of want to preserve that by giving the, the Bruisers and people that kind of actually want current Essence Reaver to be able to then build Spear of Shojin instead, and then also have old Essence Reaver back in the game. So kind of the best of both worlds. AD carries win because they get their old Essence Reaver back. Bruisers and stuff that kind of like the current Essence Reaver then now get Spear of Shojin, which is pretty much what live Essence Reaver is. So finally, let's get into Infinity Edge. It looks like the spicy 5,000 gold one that would also give you a lot of things in that 5,000 gold didn't win. They're going back to the 3,400 Infinity Edge with the BF Sword, Pickaxe, Cloak of Agility, the old school Infinity Edge basically build and all of that jazz. 70 attack damage, 25% critical strike chance. Critical strikes deal 25% damage instead of 200. It used to be 250, that's a bit too powerful. They are kind of trying to combat, damage creep in the game right now. So of course it probably wasn't going to be the 250, but it's basically old Infinity Edge with a lower cost and then a little bit 25% lower crit chance on the bonus because of the lower cost and the damage creep. So keep that in mind. But basically, yeah, old Infinity Edge, even the old build path coming back. There you go. People wanted it. Here it is. They listened to AD carries. We are Riot's favorite child, even though we're spoiled like no one's business. We're spoiled worse than eggs. We're spoiled worse than left out milk. But it's all good. Now we'll shut up and it'll be good, right? Hopefully. Anyways. Last Whisper component buff, the final upgrade has been unchanged. The cost for Last Whisper, I believe on live, is 1,300. It is going up to 1,450, and it's just building out the 2 daggers for the 350. But what it means by the upgrade is still going to be 2,800 gold afterwards, and will also be building with a pickaxe. So that's a thing for both Lord Dominic's Regard and Mortal Reminder. And that's kind of it for these like round 2 of changes. The things are kind of narrowing down. Because I'm a discussion channel, let's have a little bit of discussion at the end here by first going back over the project goals. Crit users have an item path they're excited about. Now I don't know about y'all watching this video at this point, but what excites me about an item path when I'm a crit user is just getting to actually build the crit and not just be a dead like walking bag of gold. That's kind of what excites me. I'm kind of a simple person in that, mindset. Maybe other people want more out of it. Totally fine. I'm not saying that something's wrong with you, but me, whenever we're in a meta where I can't even really build crit, I just am excited when I actually get to build crit, because it usually means something either went very right for me or very wrong for the enemy, and I get to capitalize on it. So in terms of project goals, that's a pretty good goal, but I think also it's a pretty simple goal that's pretty easy to hit, not a high bar. We go into the second one though. Crit users have a defensive options or defensive options period that build into their core. I am kind of an advocate, well, I'll put it this way, I was always on the fence, but I'm also an advocate of both this new Phantom Dancer, and I was also kind of behind the idea of the Hex Drinker Phantom Dancer, because here's the thing, right? Mages are a thing they want to preserve in bottom lane. So the thing about the Hex Drinker kind of build for me that I was kind of behind was like, if I'm going to keep seeing Cassiopeia, because she was like banned right now in the bottom lane and stuff like that, or I'm going to keep seeing mages because they want to balance the game where mages are allowed to be a thing in the bot lane, I'm fine with that. But it means if I do want to play an AD carry, they're not really, historically, they at a point, used to not even skill any magic resist, because that used to be part of their weakness for their high damage, was they could be bursted very easily. So in lane against things like Cassiopeia and stuff, a Jinx, especially the more mobile stuff, will kind of suffer against those things, and that, version of Phantom Dancer kind of allowed you to go, hey, I'll build this Hex Drinker to survive lane, and then I could still build into a crit item, so that way I'm still not like super behind from having to build maybe an early Hex Drinker or something like that. With that being said, this Phantom Dancer is pretty much like Hex Drinker still, but also against AD damage. So if I want to build this because I'm in a bully lane against Draven, and Draven just has my number, right? Like this will do it for both magic and AD. So this is actually purely even better in like that aspect. But then I do wonder if opponents of the Hex Drinker Phantom Dancer will actually look at this and think this is even worse, because it went from just doing magic resist with the Hex Drinker to now doing like all kinds of damage. It's damage period. Once you drop below 30% health, it will absorb damage from any kind of, you know, type of damage. So we'll put that in there. Then this last one, of course, crit users become more satisfying at all levels of play. Now, one of the things that I kind of lose like my AD carry card for, if you will, is I'm totally fine with metas where crit is, if it's not strong, then the crit champions probably won't be good in that meta, right? Like a Jinx probably shouldn't be good in the meta where teams are drafting like double assassins, an assassin either in the jungle and top or in the mid jungle, mid top, whatever, a lot of divers and stuff. It should be a meta that a champion like that struggles in. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I wish she was strong in the early game when she's like not supposed to be. So in terms of satisfying at all levels of play, I will probably also have to ask for clarity from you guys watching, but it probably doesn't mean that though, right? It probably doesn't mean, you know, hey, we want to be good even in metas we're not supposed to be good in. We want no counterplay, so that way you have to nerf us later anyways, right? We want other players that are playing the game to feel miserable or stuff like that, right? We're not necessarily for that. I think what they're saying here, from my understanding, is like we want you to be like, hey, if you want to take a crit champion, either it's a crit meta or you just main a crit like champion that wants to scale, you might not be super powerful early, and you accept that, but there are options for you to go without just feeling like, I guess I should have just never locked this champion in. I guess it's like an auto loss from like very basically the first minute because of, you know, won't be able to scale, etc. blah blah blah, right? At least that's what I think it means by this project goal, and so these are the questions that I kind of want to pass off to you guys as we wrap up this video. What do you think about these changes? What do you think about these goals? And what do you know, kind of, what's your definition of these goals? And then how these items work into those goals, which is why I did this at the end of the video, so you can see the items and be like, okay, that's what these changes are. How do they line up with these project goals? How do they line up with my own opinions? And of course, finally, because they still want feedback, because this isn't 100% what's shipping live, one thing to note when you give your feedback to Riot, how they will listen to you the most, is try and word it in about roughly 3 sentences. The first sentence being what you think the problem is, the second sentence being what you think the impact of the problem is, and then like the third sentence pretty much being like what your solutions are and how they would, you know, fix those problems that you mentioned earlier. And leave out as many cuss words as possible, right? Like that's probably a big one too. Try and keep your stuff civil. With that being said, that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification, the actual subscribe button. But I don't know which video will be next, because life can have a lot of kinks. So until next time, take care, GG, get jinxed. Thank you for watching, and enjoy pizza responsibly.